Welcome to Apricot Cottage Studio. Today we're doing some more exploration with the new Pansy Patch series from Stampin' Up! And this is the stamp set. Has some lovely sayings and some beautiful pansies that you can stamp. It's photopolymer. But it also comes with a set of dies. So the first thing I did when I got the Pansy Patch paper is I cut out the pansies from the sheet. There's one sheet of leaves and one sheet of pansies. Actually, 2 sheets of pansies and 2 sheets of leaves. So I've already cut all of them out of one sheet. So that makes for a very easy card. Then I started to work on the dies after I made all the cards with the cutouts. So that was an easy way to do that. So this is what the pansies look like when you die cut them. And there's a number of steps. So the first one is you use this die to cut out the base. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's all embossed. So it's got some really nice texture. I did that out of white. And then you need 2 of these, which are the back petals. You don't have to use the back petals. You can make a smaller flower just with this part. But if you want a bigger flower, like this one, 2 leaves behind it, or 2 petals behind it, you need to have 2 of these cut out. And again, it's embossed. So I've cut 2 of those. And they just overlap like this on the back. So I just put a little bit of glue on one petal and slightly overlap it. And then the petals on the front go like this. You can make it a little bit bigger by stretching it out, or you can make it a little bit smaller by pushing it in together. Then you need to have this die, which is the ruffled edge, and it cuts a piece like this. And this goes in the front. And I find that you need to sort of stretch it a little bit. And that's why I use liquid glue, because the paper curls a little bit. So in order to get it to the edge, you need to sort of stretch it a little bit. So it goes right on the edge, like that. And then there's this die, which is a ruffled edge for each of the back petals. So those go on the back. And you can line them up with the little bumps on the back. Works nicely. And then there's a second one. You have to cut it twice. That in there. There's my edging. And then there's a throat. Now you can use the stamp set if you want to have a softer effect, but because I've cut out the edging out of the paper, that just lines up there, and that becomes the throat of the flower. And then there's this little die that cuts out 3 circles, or really ovals, for the inside of the flower, like this. Little tiny one. Or you can use a jewel if you like. I've got one card that has a jewel inside. That fits in there. So there's your flower. Now, I have done it in a variety of ways. Sometimes I've cut the back petals with a solid color, but I kind of prefer, this one is a good example. This one is, I cut the back of this flower with the solid Highland Heather, but this one I inked instead, and I kind of like the effect of the inking rather than a solid cardstock color. So there's my flower. Then there's some other additional pieces. There's a little blossom, so it cuts the stem, and then you can use this die that cuts the base of the blossom. I've cut it in white. And then another die which has got some lines on it that cuts some texture. So this one creates a larger blossom. And then there's another one that cuts a tiny one. So this would overlap like this. And then a little bit of glue on the back. So you can imagine all the things you can do with these pansies. You can make 3D arrangements. There we go, and there's the little blossom stemmed. It goes on the back of the flower if you want. Okay. There's a little tiny blossom that's much smaller, and it creates one like this. It doesn't have a second die, but if you use the stamp, you can give it some lines. So I'm using Highland Heather. And line it up. And that's the little stamp. And it creates some texture on like that. And there's 3 or 4 different stems that you can get. You can get a curved one or a straight one. And this one has little leaves, so you can get different lengths. It all comes in the same die set, like that. Then there's some leaves. So again, there's 2 leaves. So it creates a leaf like this, which is two-toned. If you use the solid ones first, so there's 2 sizes, a small and a larger one. And then there's the added texture that goes on top. So for this one, there's a big one and a small one. Again, you just glue them down. I used 2 tones, so I used the lighter tone underneath and the darker tone on top. The leaf is embossed, so you could just use the leaf as it is, or you can put the extra shadowing on, which highlights the little embossing underneath. So there's some leaves. So that's how I cut all of the dies. And then I've created some cards. So with this one, I did not use these dies. I just shaded it with some inking. It gives a really soft effect. But I did do the double leaves, and I created the small blossom with a little bit of inking, and I put a jewel in the middle instead of a die cut. It makes a nice little card. It says thank you, and inside the saying is, the little things you do make such a big difference. So a very pretty feminine card. This one, I've cut the 2 different pansies, but this one was with a solid cardstock, and this one I inked, and it gives a different effect. Pansies have all different colorings, so it's quite a nice effect. So this is a birthday card. And then I've made this card. Now, with most of these cards, I've used the new contour dies. They come in a package like this, and they've got different sizes. So I cut a whole pile, perfect for outlining a card, layering a card, and if you want a fancy label. And those are called the scallop contour dies. So for this card, I cut the paper at my normal 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I sliced the card and used one of the contour pieces to put in there. And it says a little hello from me to you. That's part of the Pansy Patch set. And then inside, I used one of my stamped ones. So that creates a very interesting little card. And I like the colors of the yellow and purple. They're a nice contrast. And then I'm going to make one more with rich razzleberry. And this one's got rich razzleberry and the New Lilac. This one is, you can see the difference here. This one has got the solid background and this one is inked. So it's a lighter effect. And this one is just the face of the pansy without the backing petals. So it makes a different size. So you can get 3 different sizes. I haven't put that card together yet, but I will. Thank you for joining me today. If you're interested in the Pansy Patch stamp set and dies and paper, you can contact me. It will be available in May. Thank you very much.